Well, there's a story of a couple who has that ongoing argument. Anybody ever have one of those? That it just, there's no resolution. They can't agree. They cannot find common ground on this one particular issue. Could be politics, could be family, could be anything, right? They just can't agree. Well, the wife finally invited the husband to go talk to the pastor. And the husband immediately agreed. He goes, of course, the pastor will see my side and agree with me, right? And they go in, and to their surprise, particularly the husband's surprise, the pastor would not go with the idea of right and wrong, that whole trap. But rather, he looked at them both very seriously and asked them a question. He said, would you rather be right or happy? Would you rather be right or happy? And indeed, that is one of the conversations that we have, is one of the good questions that we ask ourselves. What is it that I'm really about here? Being right can sometimes make us feel happy in the moment. But being right and being happy can also be sort of diametrically opposed to each other, can't they? Particularly in relationships that need to be right sometimes can have associated with it the idea of controlling people, their ideas, their opinions, their activities and actions, right? It can have that little piece of control associated with that. It actually obstructs our ability to be happy. It can actually obstruct our ability to be happy. It takes on this concept of winning and competition, doesn't it? I'm right, you're wrong. We're going to compete about it until I win because I'm right and you're wrong. But do we really want to elevate and choose happiness? So I think this couple is representing that controlling or trying to control someone else's life or situation or ideas can be dangerous. Can be very dangerous business for us, particularly in relationships. And that's what we're talking about today as we look at relationships, not just in the romantic kind of relationship, but also in family relationships, in our business relationships, with our friendships. So it's all of those interpersonal, one-on-one sorts of relationships that we have. Now, whether you have a romantic relationship or want one or don't want the one you have, or maybe you don't have one and you want one, or maybe you don't have one and you don't want one, right? That's an option too. It doesn't really matter. It's really about, we all need relationships, don't we? We all need a friend in our lives, someone we can talk to. And that may be a family member or maybe it's someone at work. But we are interdependent beings. We're interdependent beings sharing this path and this journey. So the question in all of those relationships, do you want to be happy or right, is a very valid and important one to us. I actually stepped away from a friendship several years ago when I realized that the other person was all about being right, to the point of doing research to make sure she was right, and then arguing her point continuously rather than having a conversation. And it got to a point where you either just agreed with her or you just fought kind of constantly. But even in the agreement, if she didn't believe you were really agreeing with her, she still wouldn't let go of it. And I came to realize that, wow, this is really not a relationship that I want to be involved in. It's really not me what friendship is. It's really not to me what friendship is. And so we can see that this is an important question to ask ourselves. And today our talk is God as love in relationships. As love in relationships. So which is more important to you? Which is more important to you? Being right or being happy? Being right or being happy? Which feels healthier to you? Which one of those feels healthier? Which one brings you closer to your loved ones? Which one brings you closer to the ones you care about? Which one feels like it's more in alignment with your true self? With your true self. When we look at those two options, being happy or right, Which one reflects back to you the idea of kindness? And which one is reflecting back to you conflict, hostility, resistance? Yeah, we can kind of feel the difference in those. So if you're dealing with a challenge in your relationship in your life right now, you might want to ask yourself, am I trying to be happy or right in this relationship today? Am I trying to be happy or am I trying to be right? Now, I'm not talking about giving up or giving in. I'm not talking about that. It's the idea of non-resistance, isn't it? It's the idea of non-resistance. It's the idea of finding win-win. The idea in the mind of God is win-win. God plays no favorites, no competition. So it's the idea of letting go of that. And I had the thought this morning as I was wrapping up the talk that could it be that releasing our need to be right is our superpower to create healthy relationships? Think about that. Giving up our need to be right. Maybe. There are scientific studies out there that tell us that lasting relationships come down to kindness. Come down to kindness. And I think this directly relates to being happy. Want to be happy? No? I'm done. I'm done. Do you want to be happy? Yes, we all really want to be happy, don't we? Whatever our definition of that is, we just want to be happy. You know, let go of all of the dissension and all the other things out there and just be happy. Just be happy. But boy, sometimes we get in our own way. Sometimes we choose to sabotage ourselves when we feel that need coming on to be right and take a position. I have done it. I have witnessed others doing it. It's always fascinating to me sometimes to be in conversation with couples. And the couple will be trying to tell a story. Maybe the wife is trying to tell a story. Actually, this particular couple, it's the husband that's trying to tell the story. And the wife keeps interrupting. Well, no, that's not how it happened. Oh, no, you tell the story. Oh, no, that's not how it happened. No, that's not what was said. And that didn't happen then. And there's just constant interruption, right? To the point that the story doesn't even make, I'm losing track. It doesn't make any sense anymore. But there's this need to be right about the deep, minuscule details that don't make any difference to the story. But there's that need there to the point of conversation becomes difficult. Conversation becomes difficult. So we can all fall prey to this, I think. Anybody else besides me? Researcher John Gottman suggests that choosing to be kind in our relationships with each other is the glue that keeps couples together, keeps families together. Choosing to be kind. Imagine that same story of that couple trying to tell that story, and instead of her interrupting, she just allows him to tell the story. That would be kind, wouldn't it? That would be kind. The glue, when we're treated with kindness. Think about how you feel when you're treated with kindness by someone. You feel cared for, understood, appreciated, valued. You feel loved. You feel loved. Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. He's also the author of The Science of Mind, which is the textbook that we teach from here. And in his book called Richer Living, he says that every heart responds to the warmth of love. Every mind yearns for its embrace, and no life is complete without it. Love really is the fulfillment of the law of good. Love alone can heal the world and cause people to live together in unity and in peace. Love alone. Love, healing, happiness, unity. Those are good words, aren't they? Those are good words. And they're all qualities of God. They're all qualities of God. And qualities of unity, which is that which we see at the deepest levels, is that unity, that connection with each other, isn't it? We can think of kindness as a fixed trait. You're either born with it or not. And some people are naturally stronger than others. Some people have a more accessible kindness gene, if you will. But if you think of it as a muscle that needs to be built, we can also increase our kindness, can't we? And let go of some resistance and lower some walls that may prevent us from allowing ourselves to step into being kind with another. We watched The Blind Side last night. Anybody seen that movie with Sandra Bullock? Yeah, good show. It's about her son, Michael Orr, who is a professional NFL football player now. But when she helped him come off the streets and took care of him, he was a big guy for in high school. He was a really big guy, but he needed training. He needed academic training, and he needed coaching in football. So he needed to build some muscles, both physically and mentally, in order to become what he has ultimately become in life. So he was able to take the raw material, if you will, of what he had and improve that through muscle building. And we can do the same thing in muscle building with the kindness factor with ourselves. When we develop our kindness muscle, we then become aware of our surroundings, our environment, every place we are. You probably know someone, or you've come in the presence of someone who's just always attentive to what's happening to them in their environment. They're the folks that stop on the side of the freeway in the dead of night to help someone. They're the folks that stop what they're doing to go and help somebody in the grocery store. They're the folks that will stop and change a flat tire for you. It's just their natural way of being. And we recognize that. We also see people that are blinded to the needs of others. And we've experienced that as well, where we don't see that and just walk right by it. Walk by the struggle, walk by the suffering. They're not attuned to it and attentive to it at all. And we may be on the receiving or the giving end of either one of those. We may be on the receiving or the giving end of either of those. And if we are, it's an experience of fear. It's an experience of they're protecting themselves. It's an experience of fear and resistance. Of fear and resistance. Perhaps some judgment too. Well, I share with you all the time how Spirit shows up in my life and giving me opportunities to live what I'm teaching, right? So I had a little experience with this yesterday while driving. And I happened to be talking to my practitioner at the moment. So I got busted big time. I was making the bicyclists in front of me on the road, right up here at, I was right for our workshop. We had our foundations workshop yesterday, and I was leaving that and pulling up to the light to get on the 101. And there's two lovely ladies on road bikes, and they're in their cute little outfits and everything. And one's in one right turn lane, one's in the other right turn lane. I go, get in the bike lane, right? So I go into my stuff. That's one of my pet peeves, as it were. If you're on a bike, get in the bike lane. They weren't in the bike lane. So I'm going off on this, right? My practitioner is laughing at me and like, okay. And of course it came into my realization that this is wonderful wonderful sense of humor of Spirit saying, here, enjoy this. Because this is where my resistance came up, and this is where I was not being kind. Now, fortunately, I didn't blow my horn at them or anything. I just fussed and got to have that experience with my practitioner. But I was making them wrong, and I was unhappy. Right? I was the one that was unhappy. They weren't. They were excited. They were out in the fresh air. They're on their bicycles. They're chatting. But I was unhappy. I was doing it to myself. I was doing it to myself. And this is where these things can show up as righteousness. I'm right. I'm right in my righteousness. Right? We all have those places, don't we? Maybe it's a pet peeve. Maybe it's a family member. I know they're going to do that thing when I get there, and I know it, and then they get there, and then what happens? They do that thing, and then you go off. They're doing that thing again. I knew they were going to do that thing again. And why did they do that thing again? Because we expected them to do that thing again, right? Yeah. We all have those people and places in our lives that we've got a sense of righteousness around. That we have a sense of righteousness around. Ernest Holmes tells us that love overcomes both hate and fear. However, love does not overcome hate and fear through controversy, argument, or force. No resistance. No resistance. But by a subtle power of transformation, transmutation, and sublimation. Love is invisible in its essence, but apparent through its act. Apparent through its act. As light overcomes the darkness, the presence of heat causes the coolness of a room to change until it is warm. So the radiant action of love and peace dissipates fear, hate, and confusion. Love is the victor in every case. Love breaks down the iron bars of thought, shatters the walls of material belief, severs the chain of bondage which thought has imposed, and sets the captive free. Isn't that wonderful? As Michael Gott asks us at the end of each service each week, do you want to be free? And we say yes. We say yes because as humans we want to be free of bondage. We want to be free of bondage. And Holmes says love can sever the chain of bondage which thought has imposed. And I imposed that bondage on myself yesterday, didn't I? By my reaction. They weren't unhappy. They weren't feeling anything at all. I was creating it in my own mind. Through the power of my own mind and my own imagination. Holmes goes on to say that love overcomes both hate and fear by a subtle power of transmutation. Now, transmutation is the state of being changed into another form. Alchemy, if you will. Lead to gold. Hate changed to love. Holmes also tells us that love is the givingness of self to the object of its adoration. We should learn to love all people, not just some people. This frees us to love all, adore some, and find happiness everywhere. Today, through the opportunity and practice of ritual and the ceremony of the rose, we are going to step into a commitment of love. Not only for those of us in a romantic relationship with another, it is for all of us to commit to being love itself. To being love itself in all of our relationships, with everyone that we come into contact with. If God is love and God is all, then love truly is God expressing as each of us. As each of us. So I'm going to invite our ushers, if they would, come forward to hand out the roses this morning. And this is, again, for everyone. And it's not only our Valentine present to each of you, it is Valentine's week, but it's a symbol that's rich in ancient history, the red rose. Like the cross, it can have paradoxical meanings. It is at once a symbol of purity and a symbol of passion. Go ahead. And a virginity and fertility, of death and of life. The rose is the flower of the goddess Venus, but it's also the flower of the blood of her lover Adonis. It's a symbol of transmutation, of taking food from the earth and transmitting it into this beautiful, fragrant rose. Can I have one, please? Can I have one? Oh, I get two. Good. Did you get one? Lily, you get one. Oh, my goodness. So today we will focus on the rose as a symbol of transmutation, transforming any fear to faith and ultimately to love as we commit to being love itself. In the language of flowers, a red rose is a symbol for love. And I invite you to look at the rose that you're holding right now. Notice its petals. Some of them may be perfect. Some of them may not be. They may be bent or discolored or have spots. Notice the perfection of the rose. Does your rose have thorns? Carefully touch the thorn and realize how it protects the rose. And then notice the difference in the velvet-like texture of the petals and the contrast of the thorn. All in the same beautiful expression. Smell the rose. Smell its fragrance. And realize that just like God and God's love being freely given, this fragrance is freely given, isn't it? It's not playing favorites and say, I'm going to smell for Pardis, but I'm not going to smell for Sherry, right? No, it smells the same for all of us. It's just giving of itself. Looking at your rose as a representation, a symbol of love, of God. A miracle of a rose, really, right? We couldn't create this all by ourselves. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for just a moment and silently say to yourself, I commit myself fully to be love. I am committed to making love my priority. And now open your eyes. And in the spirit of spreading love, I'm going to invite you to stand and exchange your rose with someone else in the room, sharing your love. And as you exchange, receive this gift and acknowledge it with gratitude. Go ahead. Thank you. You can, sure. Has everyone exchanged? Has everyone exchanged their roses? Does everyone still have a rose? Anybody get a dozen roses? So look at your new rose. Look at your new rose. How's it different from the one that you gave it away? Is it as red? Notice its petals. Is it as tight a blossom? Is it more open? Is it larger? Is it smaller? Is the coloring the same? How are they different and individualized expressions of God? They're all roses, aren't they? They're all different. They're all different. I'm going to invite you once again to close your eyes and silently say to yourself, with this new rose, I commit myself fully to be love. I am committed to making love my priority. Breathe in the fragrance of your rose and open your eyes and look once again at it. Know that what you hold in your hand is a precious representation of God as love, as this rose in form. It, like you, like me, like everything, was first a divine idea in the mind of God. It was first an idea before it ever came into form, being created out of the only substance that there is, which is pure spirit. Pure spirit. And this just happens to be a beautiful representation of that, isn't it? So I invite you to take your roses with you into your week, and every time you see it, think about how you are being loved, how you're showing up as love this week. God is love, as us. As us. Putting God first in our lives. Love itself as the primary relationship that we have. This then becomes the foundation for all of our relationships, doesn't it? the platform from which all loving relationships are now drawn to us. We must first become that thing which we seek to experience in our lives. And becoming love, what could be better than attracting loving friendships, relationships, environments, beauty? It all begins with knowing God and knowing love. Please, let's talk about now the practicing the presence of the love this week. I've got a couple for you today. Would you rather be happy or right? That's one of our key points this morning. Kindness is the key. Choosing to be kind is the key. Our SCSL volunteer t-shirts, remember those? What do they say? Be kind anyway. Even when it's not easy. Even when it's not convenient. Choose to be kind anyway. Be a loving presence in creating a world that works for all. Choosing to be kind results in happiness, ours and the other person's. A little joy, spreading a little joy. Choose to be right. Well, that can create suffering in both of us, can it? That can create suffering. Imagine if I'd blown my horn yesterday. Number 2 is put love first. When we make love a priority in our lives, it does become that touchstone for us, for all of our relationships, with ourselves, with our families, our friends, and our businesses, and our church and spiritual communities, and of course in our romantic partnerships. We said last month that God is relationship. God is relationship. It's not the guy in the sky. It's not a personality. It's the relationship. It's the most intimate relationship we can have with anything is the God that lives, moves, and has its being within us. It's a thing called life that we experience, the very beating of our own hearts. So putting love first in our lives is putting God first in our lives. It's putting God first in our lives. And it's the secret to experiencing more joy, more loving relationships, and frankly, more peace. More peace. It's the secret of calling in a new love. It's also the secret of healing an existing relationship. Love is the sorcerer's stone of creation. Holmes tells us that throughout the Science of Mind. That love is the foundation for healing, for creation, for everything. So in the spirit of this month of love, I want to close this today with a final quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, if we would look for a God of love, we must look long and deeply into each other. We must look away from the differences until we penetrate into the unity of the whole. Love alone reveals love. So I invite you this week to be love. Remember your roles. Be love in all of your relationships and practice the presence as love. So would you join me as we practice the presence right now in an affirmative prayer this morning? How good it is to remember that love so loved the world that it created all that is. Love created each of us here present in this room. It created me and it created each and every one of us. And love is God. It is spirit, source, essence, presence. It's the creative energy. It is all that has been, is, or shall be. And all of it's here now and present in this room. It's the very breath that we breathe. The very beat of our hearts. And knowing that all of that is here present in this room, in, through, and as each one of us as expressions of it, I speak my word today for each of us, knowing that we are love. We already are it in expression. Cannot help but be it because we are in existence at all, and we come from love, so we therefore are love. We just sometimes forget. And I know in this moment that we are remembering the truth of our very beings, that the light within us brightly shines forth through our hearts, our minds, our eyes, and every action that we have. And I know for anyone that has anything on their heart this day that they're holding close, that they need or seek prayer or relief or release or healing, whatever it is they're calling forth, that as they bring that into their awareness, that we lift it into this prayer knowing that the healing has occurred. We know that the revelation has come forward. We know that the manifestation is available in form now, in this moment. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for love and joy and beauty and peace and harmony and all of those God qualities that we are in form as we cast off any shackles of boundary or any shackle of bondage that we may have created in our minds, and throw off those chains and just allow ourselves to fully express as the divinity of God that we are. So filled with gratitude for that knowing. As I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing that it's already done. It is already done in the mind of God. I release it, I let it be, and we affirm together by saying, and so it is.